Welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Kelly. Today we will learn about the prison book program at the United First Parish Church in Quincy Center. The executive director is here with us today. We'll be chatting with her shortly. First, though, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, it's beautiful. Brilliant sunshine, 50 degrees right now. A sunny, breezy day today with temperatures in the mid to upper 50s this afternoon. Chilly this evening under clear skies. Lows will drop off into the mid-upper 30s. There is a frost advisory actually in some locations for most of this week. Another gorgeous day tomorrow with abundant sunshine. A little warmer. Tomorrow's highs into the lower 60s. The one fly in the ointment is on Wednesday with the chance for some showers around. It'll be rather gray and damp. Still pretty mild, though, with highs Wednesday into the low to mid 60s. And sunshine is right back with us again on Thursday with highs Thursday into the mid 50s. Again, sunny, 50 degrees in Quincy right now. Checking out the news for you today, the Quincy Center redevelopment project would more than double in size under a proposed amendment to the urban redevelopment district. Mayor Thomas Koch is proposing expanding the area to be redeveloped from 62 up to 130 acres. The expanded area for redevelopment could include the Star Market and Granite Place shopping areas, the area south down to School Street, and north of Dimmock Street. The plan would also include the acquisition of properties, including Planet Fitness on Adams Street, condos at Hancock and Dimmock Streets, even Acapulco's restaurant on Hancock Street, properties on McGrath Highway, Mechanic Street, Washington Street, and Bigelow Street would also be purchased for residential development and for flood control measures. This would be the sixth amendment to the Quincy Center redevelopment project since it was first approved back in 2007. The City Council will review that request tonight. Now, it's unclear why Quincy Elder Services Director Tom Clasby is on paid administrative leave. Mayoral spokesman Chris Walker does confirm that Clasby is on paid leave for an investigation related to the city's policies and procedures, but no other information was released. Clasby has been Quincy Elder Services Director since 1997 and heads up the Kennedy Center, which provides medical, housing assistance, transportation, and recreation programs for thousands of seniors. Clasby did publish the May newsletter from the Council on Aging, in which he talks about the 40th anniversary of the Senior Olympics this year. He is still listed as director of the department on the city's website, and his city email is still active as of this morning. Quincy residents being asked to comment on a plan to protect and promote open space and recreation throughout the city. The planning department is in the process updating the city's open space and recreation plan that's mandated by the state. They've launched a survey on the city's website to take public comments. During a recently presentation to the planning board, Adrian Lennon from the BSC Consulting Group said public input is a key part of the process.
The survey essentially shows the entire index of properties and work that we have done and asks the public and the community to rank some of those things in terms of what they value the most, so that there's still an opportunity to direct a little bit what the action items of the plan are. And then we're really taking it on the road. The Parks and Recreation Commission has the mandate of executing the plan, and so they need to actually host a public forum where I'll give a presentation very similar to this one and introduce the Open Space Recreation Plan survey again, hopefully to a wider audience, to make sure that more people are aware that we're doing this work and that we're looking for a little bit of feedback before we close it all up and send it back off to the state.
Principal Planner Rob Stevens told the board the city will ask the state to allow that open space and recreation plan to be updated in conjunction with the city's efforts to update its hazard mitigation plan. There will be some changes to the ferry service that runs out of Squantum Point Park at Marina Bay in Quincy this year. The MBTA and Boston Harbor Cruises have collaborated to develop a new schedule of service between Marina Bay, the Seaport, Logan Airport, and Winthrop. Biggest change is the trip between Quincy and the aquarium, which has been reduced from an hour and 5 minutes down to 25 minutes by deleting several stops. There will also be 6 trips from Marina Bay instead of 4, beginning at 6:50 in the morning, and increased evening service. For Marina Bay Quincy passengers, there's a new direct trip to Boston with an 8:20 a.m. departure time and an 8:45 a.m. arrival time at the aquarium. A one-way trip costs $6.50. As of now, there is no weekend service. The seasonal ferry service is expected to begin on April 29th and run through November 30th. Beacon Hill lawmakers are working to approve the state budget for fiscal year 2025 that begins in July. Quincy State Representative Tacky Chan says the city can expect to see about the same amount of state aid that it has seen in years past.
So the unrestricted government aid this year is $20,055,396. And the Chapter 70 education money is $46,126,903. So combined, you're looking in the area of, just about $80 million or just under $80 million. So against the city's $40 million budget, the state continues to be, as I like to keep saying, around 20 to 25%, of its base budget, and $23 million plus is not something to sneeze at regarding money they can do whatever you want with. So, a lot of this stuff came up, as part of Prop 2.5. Some of you may remember, where state towns were capped on total revenue generation they can do, not property tax rates, revenue generation. There's a difference. And, things like local aid is supposed to help address shortfalls of the result of the fact that they can't raise the total budget indefinitely or unlimited in cities and towns.
Chan says lawmakers are still grappling with the soaring costs associated with the migrant crisis in the state shelter system and still have not finalized a plan that would make to-go cocktails from restaurants permanent. It's our check of news for you today. Coming up, we learned about the prison book program at the United First Parish Church here in Quincy Center. That's next. Welcome back. The prison book program is located at the United First Parish Church in Quincy Center. It's been there for over 20 years, and this is the first I'm learning about it, I'm embarrassed to say. So the executive director, Kelly Brotzman, is here to educate me and you at the same time. Kelly, it's great to meet you, first of all.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure to learn about this program. Like I said, I have heard about it.
Yes.
I've seen the banner outside the church, when your volunteers are there, but that's about all I know about it. So, school us.
Okay,
Yeah.
We are celebrating 20 years, located in Quincy Center. Our partners at the church have been very generous with us. We've been growing a lot lately. So we were founded in 1972.
Wow.
So we've been doing this for more than 50 years. And we've had the same mission the whole time, which is to support people in prison by providing them with free books and reading materials that meet their specific needs and interests. So access to books inside America's many, many prisons and jails is very difficult, especially now. Really, a lot of institutional libraries, where they exist, and they don't always exist, are really pretty inadequate for people's needs. And some people may not know, but people in prison and jail generally don't have access to the internet. So if you're looking to learn something, if you're looking to help yourself in some way, if you're looking to learn a skill, learn a language, learn a hobby, the institutional libraries, generally speaking, have materials that they tend to be out of date, they tend to be in fairly poor condition, and in addition, access to the library is pretty slim where it exists. You may get to go once a week, you may be limited in terms of time. Getting librarians back after the pandemic has been really difficult for correctional systems. So we hear routinely that, one librarian is covering 5 facilities or something
right?
like that.
Okay.
And, going to the library is a privilege that can be taken away. And so there's really the only other way besides the institutional library, the only other way to get books, if you're incarcerated, is through a loved one who would have the excess funds to go on an online retailer like Amazon or Barnes & Noble and pay full retail price. And that's an issue because people in prisons and jails disproportionately come from lower income communities, and also incarceration and going through the courts and so on really can fray your relationships with your loved ones. And so there's very, very few people who are incarcerated who have loved ones on the outside with the means and the ability to order books for them at full price. So that's where we come in.
Okay.
And so people write to us. Usually it's a handwritten letter. They tell us what they're interested in reading. We've been supplying some people with books for years and years and years. Some people, they've been writing to us for a long time. We maintain a library of largely donated books. There's about 15,000 books in our library at any given time.
Where's that library located?
That library is in the basement of
the church? Okay.
Yes, so we have a nonfiction room and a fiction room, which is basically, the nonfiction room is also our office, very small office, and the fiction room is basically a repurposed Sunday school classroom, or half of one. And so we're constantly restocking the shelves with fresh books. That's one thing people may be interested to know. If you're in Quincy, we take book donations anytime we're open, which is 4 times a week. We hold volunteer sessions. They're all listed on our website, prisonbookprogram.org. We are looking for gently used paperbacks. A lot of hardback books are not accepted by prisons. So what we do is we utilize volunteers to fulfill the requests that come in. We get about 20,000 letters per year, requests per year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so last year we sent out about 18,000 packages of books. The average package has 3 to 4 books in it, so we sent more than 63,000 books.
Just in Massachusetts?
No, we serve all 50 states,
you do?
as well as Guam and Puerto
okay.
Rico.
Oh.
We are the only authorized free book provider to Massachusetts prisons.
Okay.
We're actually included in the department procedures as the only authorized vendor of free books. And we serve all the New England requests that come to us. We serve those on an expedited basis. So generally speaking, when a request comes in, it's about 60 days to sort of till when a shipment of books goes out. But in Massachusetts and in other New England states, that's really closer to 30 to 40 days.
Okay. All right.
So we do have, I would say, sort of, a special focus on New England. But we serve the whole country. As you know, in Massachusetts, we have a pretty small prison population. It's just over 5,000 people. Whereas nationwide, we're still talking about 1.8 million people. Inside prisons, and jails is also another 500,000. So there's a lot of
jails is kind of short-term, prisons is
jails
more
is usually
long-term.
short-term sentences or pre-trial.
Okay.
So the vast majority of people in jail on any given day, and jails are not statutorily obligated to have a library at all. So there's almost never a library in jails. Very rare. But most people who are in jail on any given day are just there waiting. They're waiting for trial. Right. And they haven't been granted a bond, or they can't afford the bond that they have been given. Right. And there's really no programming in jail, so it's a time of a great deal of idleness, and so reading is something, our requesters tell us it's one of the few things to do, when you're spending time in jail.
It's something we all take for granted, isn't it, Kelly?
It is. It's something we take for granted, and really, when your programming options are slim, to none, boredom is a real factor.
Yes.
in people's lives. In prisons, there's generally a little bit more programming. Maybe there's some education classes, maybe a few, self-help groups and so on, but it still is quite limited.
Yeah.
And so what we do is, people write us a letter. We have volunteers. We have 4 sessions a week, almost 200 sessions a year. And
right
volunteers
here in Quincy.
Right here in Quincy, yeah.
I think it's important to point that out because I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't realize that.
Yeah, right in Quincy Center. This is roughly double the number of sessions we had been having for the first, I would say, 45 years. And that's because it's only been the last couple of years that we've added paid staff.
I see.
So it's very small staff, myself and one other person.
All right.
But we have the capacity now. We had about 1,400 individual unique people volunteer with us last year. Those are people coming into Quincy, mostly from outside Quincy. So, local business owners benefit from that. And, just in terms of the overall sort of traffic into Quincy Center, we bring a lot of people. So, we have Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 9. And then we have Wednesday and Saturday afternoons. Wednesday's 1:30 to 4, and Saturday's 1 to 4. And all you do is you sign up on our website. You go to prisonbookprogram.org. All the open spots are there. Saturdays do tend to fill up pretty far in advance. So if you want a Saturday, sign up today.
Right.
And we have a very low barrier to entry. Volunteering with Prison Book Program is very accessible. All you do is sign up. There's no training. There's no Corey. There's no, you just show up. And anytime you see our banner out on the railing right there on the corner, we're there. And so volunteers really do the work of Prison Book Program. They read the requests, they comb through our library for the best possible books for each requester, they package the books up for the mail, they write a handwritten invoice, which includes a personal note to each recipient, which is pretty meaningful. And they do basically all of the fulfillment process.
Do they also do the intake when folks drop books off to donate?
They do. So we have people sorting through book donations. That's one of our stations. We have about 10 different things that people can work at when they come to volunteer. And we check through a lot of the books that come in. We take a limited number of hardback books. We generally mostly need paperback books. Just because more prisons will accept a paperback book.
I see.
And the needed genres, we tend to be a little bit more liberal on our high request, in our high request categories, which tend to be nonfiction categories. We find that we get more requests for nonfiction than for fiction, although it's very, your genre fiction is very popular, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, that sort of thing. But a lot of people, some things that people may not know, very popular for incarcerated people to take up learning another language. So foreign language dictionaries are always useful. People want to make use of the time that they have. Hobby books are also really popular. So things like crochet, things like origami, things that you can do with very simple tools. Drawing is very popular, taking up how to draw. Those sorts of things, anything, and then job books. People are looking at their lives after release and they're saying, 95% of people who are incarcerated today will come home to their communities. And so, as you know, a felony record can really curtail your traditional employment options. So we get people, they're looking maybe to get a commercial driving license and get involved in truck driving. People are looking to learn a trade because, the building trades are one of the areas that are, you can still make a decent living.
Yes, definitely.
And, a record doesn't necessarily inhibit you. So we get a lot of requests, and we get a lot of requests for starting one's own business. I mean, people are actually, pretty clear-eyed about the fact that conventional employment, is going to be tough. And so they want to maybe look at starting their own personal training business or starting their own hair salon or something like that. So we get a lot of requests for those. And, also things you might not expect. So things like travel books. You know, people say, even though they can't travel,
Yeah.
people say it's fun to sort of read about different places
Just
in the
imagine,
world, and
yeah.
and also, you know, the pictures are beautiful. Cooking is
Sure.
very a popular category for us. People look to just sort of maybe have food memories, things that they remember eating, or things that
Okay.
are a source of, you know, contentment for them, or they're trying to use what they have available to them to sort of recreate things.
Sure.
So some things I think surprise some of our new volunteers who come in. They're like, really? They want a cookbook?
Yeah, yeah.
But we try to keep a little bit of everything in stock. So it looks very much like a small bookstore.
So now how does the connection happen between the prisons and the prison book program? You know, how does that communication occur?
So very often, the biggest way that people on the inside find out about us is word of mouth.
Okay.
Our address is sort of a hot commodity inside prisons and jails, and so people know, okay, you can write to this prison book program and they'll send you a package of free books.
I see.
But we have taken out, very recently we took out our first paid advertisement in a publication called Prison Legal News,
Oh.
which is one publication that if you're incarcerated, you can probably get your hands on a copy.
Okay.
It covers pretty much Eighth Amendment jurisprudence, basically. So cases, litigation around conditions of confinement and cruel and unusual punishment, that sort of thing. And so they have ads. So we took out a little ad, and that did increase demand a little bit. But a lot of times too, we call the prison if we get a request from a prison we've never served before. Then we call them, we tell them about our fulfillment process, we kind of try to sell them a little bit on how reading, if you have a prison full of people who are reading regularly and frequently, that prison is a safer prison. And so we tell them, you know, look, we sort through our books, we scan everything for potential contraband or, you know, any issues. And so generally speaking, they will give us their rules and restrictions.
Yes.
We keep a massive database of the rules at every single facility that we serve. And so whatever they say, sometimes they'll say, you know, no manga, which is a kind of Japanese comic book. Sometimes they'll say no dictionaries. Maybe they sell a dictionary through their prison's commissary program or something like that.
Okay.
And so each request gets marked up. This is another one of our volunteer tasks. Each request gets marked up with the rules and regulations that we know of at that facility, and the people who select books for each requester are asked to follow, you know, all of those rules and restrictions. There are some genres we just don't carry because we would never be able to get them into any prison, like true crime, for example.
Okay.
You know, we just don't accept those kinds of books. Any books on like martial arts, you know, that could be, you know, how to hurt people, anything like that.
Sure.
But yeah, we generally will take any sort of gently used paperback book.
Okay.
And you know, books are pretty hard to recycle, so it's also a good place to know, okay, you know, in addition to the transfer center,
Yes,
you can bring books to us, and even if we can't use them, we share books with a lot of other charities,
Okay,
More Than
all right.
Words. We have a number of relationships with used bookstores in the area, so we can take them there, get store credit, turn them into things that
Something
we
you
can
can
use.
use,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Are there other prison book libraries in the region, or are you the only one?
So we are the only such program in New England. Now that said, there is a program called Great Falls Books Through Bars, which is in Western Mass.
Okay.
And they're much smaller than we are. They get together, I think, twice a month or something like that.
Okay.
And they're actually an offshoot of people who used to volunteer at Prison Book Program.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So, but there are about a couple dozen other programs similar to ours,
Okay.
and they all kind of trace their story back to the late 60s and early 70s, the kind of counterculture years.
Yep.
And Seattle has one that's probably about as large as we are. But a lot of times the other programs will serve just one state, maybe their state, or they'll serve their region. There's one Appalachian Prison Book Program. They serve North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, those kinds of areas. But we certainly aren't the only one. But we should also say that we are a registered 501c3 charity.
Donations are welcome.
Donations are always welcome. Yes.
And you have an event coming up, actually.
We
soon,
do.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
tell us.
This Saturday, April 27th. from 5 to 7 p.m. At United First Parish Church, Quincy, upstairs, not down in the basement where we normally operate. We'll be having a stand-up comedy benefit. It's called Stock the Stacks.
Okay,
and
fun.
so
Right.
we'll be splitting the proceeds with a group of 4 stand-up comics from New Normal Boston. There will be refreshments, beverages for sale, and so we hope it'll be, sort of some bookish humor
Yes.
for folks.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we've really tried to do kind of a fundraising event of that nature.
Okay.
So come out and join us. The tickets are for sale. They're linked at the top of our homepage.
Okay, all right.
So people can go there and get tickets, and it should be a lot of fun.
Good, good. Just about a minute left, but ever get somebody who comes out of prison
Yes.
and comes back to the program and says, "I had your book, thank you so much"?
Yes,
You
we do. We
Okay.
do. It's not often
Yeah.
because people come back to all kinds of different states and
Sure,
locations,
sure.
but we do, and we have people who come and volunteer with us, and
I
they
was gonna ask
say,
about that. Okay, yeah.
gosh, it was a lifeline,
Yeah.
to have you guys as a source of books.
Must feel good for the volunteers to hear that.
It
so,
really
yeah.
does. It really does. And I mean, we get hundreds of thank you notes every year
Sure.
from folks, saying, it was a dark time. I was in a bad place,
Right.
and then some caring person, sent me this package of books. So it means a lot.
I hope we've been able to shine the spotlight on the program a little bit
Yeah.
here today, Kelly, and please come back.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Check the forecast for you for the rest of the day today. Get outside. It is beautiful. Lots of sunshine in the upper 50s, down to the upper 30s this evening, so a little chill in the air for sure. Nice tomorrow, too, even a little bit warmer. Some wet weather moving in on Wednesday, but it moves right out again for Thursday, and really the end of the week looks pretty nice right now. Thanks again to Kelly Brotzman for joining us from the Prison Book Program.
My pleasure.
Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Friday here on the show, folks from the Woodward School for Girls will be joining us. Meantime, check our website, please. It's qatv.org. All of our latest programs are there. There's news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and much more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.